All right, so I'm Nick Bertoni. I lead the KnowledgePanel operations team at Ipsos, and that's a big umbrella operations for a massive panel. One of the big things that I feel very passionately about is panel relations. So that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time focusing on. So that's what we're going to be talking about this morning, specifically how do we support our panel members when they need help with something. So Raleigh Cobb is my co-author on this. He's our director of panel relations. It does a lot of this stuff. This is the product of a lot of his work that he did and for implementing it. So really excited to talk to you about a new thing that we're doing to try to help our panel members. So first, you've all probably seen something like this. If you flew into Dulles Airport, you probably might have got the self-serve there too, or checking in for your flight. So self-service is popping up everywhere. You can't avoid it really anymore, at least domestically in the US. So now it's kind of like, should we try something like this for our panel members? So the question, would it be helpful? Who's using it? That kind of stuff. So first, before we get into all that good stuff, I want to kind of talk about the problem. So there's no, this isn't a scientific presentation here. There's no research question, but there is a problem we're trying to solve, and that's how do we help people on our panels who need that help? Something is always going to break. People will always have questions. They'll always ask where their money is, even though you've already sent it to them twice and they claim they never got it. So that's fun. And the bigger your panel is, the more people you have, the more support you need. Fun fact, Ipsos also has several custom panels that we build or maintain for our clients. So it's not just KnowledgePanel that we own and operate. We also operate several other custom and pretty complicated panels that people have questions for and need support. We live in an on-demand world. You've got everything in your fingertips on your phone. You can get answers in seconds. Emails are pretty quick, but they're not instant. Good luck getting an 18 to 24-year-old to check their email to begin with. And thinking about it, it's like, wait, you want me to use my phone to actually talk? Like, what is that? What are we doing? Okay, so how can we meet those people where they're at and solve the thing that we're at? So I want to talk about our chatbot. So a chatbot is something we implemented on our KnowledgePanel member portal. And it's an automated virtual assistant, for lack of a better explanation. So we just kicked this off. It's pretty fresh for us. October of last year is when we put this out there. It's NLP, conversational AI. And it's the fun part about that, and Michael's going to talk about some of our other AI technologies, is you can train it, it learns, it evolves, it adapts. So you can kind of get it to do mostly what you want. So here's a quick little screenshot of what it looks like. This is an example of our member page. Fun little guy in the corner down there. That's the chatbot icon. So when you click on that, here's what pops up. So we've got a few different predetermined things that we've got on there. And these were selected intentionally because we know what people inquire about. We know what they're always asking. So how can we meet those problems or meet those needs, solve them easier, faster, better? So when you click it, that's what pops up. I'll do a little show and tell here until we get to the numbers part about it. But here's a few different examples. So when you click the different options on there, surveys, points, a couple other examples here. So this is just a quick kind of overview of what it might look like for somebody who's using the panel. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but I'm happy to share these later on if anybody has questions. So you can also, instead of using the predetermined options, you can type in your own question. So for example, what I showed here is, how do I get more surveys? We've always got people asking, how can I do more? And then this boom, text pops up. So this is part of what we trained. This is what we taught the model to do. Fun little cell phone, when we were first going through this, I typed in, how do I get more surveys? And the response was, I am fine. So I was like, cool, good talk, bro. So it's fun though. It's, that's generative AI, it's great, but it's not perfect, but it can learn. So that's a fun thing. It's obviously got a much better answer now. One other thing I want to call your attention to is that little part there at the bottom. Was this helpful? Yes or no? I'll get into more of that here shortly. All right, so now let's talk about the use of this. How many people are using this chatbot? So again, this is implemented early October. The data here is going through the end of January. We get our metrics, the first week of the month, and a couple days wasn't enough time for me to do this for February's numbers, so we cut it off January. So during that time, 1,700 interactions. Also now that's interactions, that's not unique users, so people can use it more than once. So what we're measuring here are the interactions for it. And just a couple definitions there. Completed means they did something. Abandoned means they did not. So if you click on that little icon that I showed you in the bottom right corner, that's going to register you as an interaction. Whether you click on a topic or type in a question, that's what we consider completed for. So when you look at that part, 76% of people completed it. I'm not a math major, but 1,300 people is a lot. That's almost 1,300 questions. I didn't have to have a live support person answering. That's a big number. We'll come back to that. So how is it used? How are people interacting with it? So most of them, they click on a predetermined selection that we have. 40% almost typing in a question. That's a little higher than I was expecting. Good to know though, because that helps me and our panel relations team think, okay, can we add more things to make it even easier to use? What is it used for? So what kind of questions are people doing? So here's a kind of the top 5 that are on there. And this is interesting too. I'll get into why some of this is important, but it's, these are things that are kind of, we hope people would know how to do, but clearly they might not as much as we would like. So that's an area of opportunity. The helpfulness, was this helpful? Yes or no? Not a lot of people rated it. I think it's about 35% of people actually rated it, but the majority said yes. So again, that's encouraging. Who uses it? Now we're in the fun stuff. Who are the people who are actually using this? Kind of surprised, the biggest group there is not our youngest crowd. We would have expected the younger audience would have used this. That's not kind of how it's turned out so far. A little disclaimer on this, the data on users is only for a couple of weeks. When this was first implemented, we didn't have the ability to track individual level people to see who was actually using it. This presentation has been accepted for APOR, and when I present there, I'll have a couple more months worth of data to really add on this and build on top of it. So hopefully some more insights to share for that. Race, ethnicity, I don't know a lot of surveys that get a 18% sample composition is Black, non-Hispanic, 21% Hispanic without doing any intentional targeting. That was encouraging. These are people who are underrepresented, harder to reach. They're using this. That's good. That means we're hopefully solving their problems. High school or less education, 41%. 41% of these users that we've identified so far, high school or less education. Again, harder to reach, harder to retain, right? Panel relations, panel support, keeping the people that you have, not having to spend all that money recruiting to get new ones. It's cheaper, easier, faster to keep them than it is to get new ones. So it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Party ID, super important, especially in an election year. Pretty decent distribution in terms of Republican, Democrat. Pretty big chunk though, 40% independent, something else. Again, harder to retain, harder to keep in. That's good news. All right, so what does this mean? What did we learn from all this? Number one, big number of people. So 1,292 people had a question answered. So out of those initial 1,700, we solved a problem for almost 13. So we've got a pretty massive panel support team, and that frees them up. So those are 1,292 questions they didn't have to answer, so they can work on the more complicated, more difficult problems that they have, or focus on the people who actually do want live support. The demos of the people who are using it are encouraging because they are important to our research. They're hard to get, they're hard to keep. So the more we can do to meet them where they're at and do what's easier for them, maybe not necessarily for us, the better that is for our panels. Another one thing here is that the top 5 uses, I would have expected or at least hoped those were easy questions. So our hypothesis of that is that the people who are using the chatbot for these, they might view those as maybe a dumb question. Maybe they don't know, maybe they're too embarrassed to ask it. Purely hypothetical, but something that we're really thinking a lot about, and that also means we've got an area of opportunity for education. We need to do better on our onboarding. We need to do better explaining how to redeem their points, how and when they get surveys. But again, this is all super helpful intelligence to have actionable information, metrics that help you fix something. And lastly, the majority of people, they say it helps. So that means it's good, it's worth doing, and something we can tweak and evolve it and hopefully improve for it. So that's it. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.